All right. What's happening, everybody? Brian Edwards, MajorWager.com, talking the 2019 coaching carousel, which is not done, but most of the big pieces have fallen. But at any time, different dominoes could fall and create all sorts of drama, fun stuff, what have you. Let's start with the Noles. I like what FSU did. I think, especially considering the circumstances, that they did an outstanding job getting Mike Norvell, 38 years old, a proven winner, Justin Fuente. And let's remember now, Memphis had been absolutely garbage. Excuse me. They had been absolutely garbage dating back to like the Tommy West era when they weren't even really that good then. They had been garbage for about a decade after that. Justin Fuente, now at Virginia Tech, came in and took over. And by year 3 and year 4, he had it going well. Excuse me as I have to peek at my Phil Steele book for some factoids on Memphis and Fuente and Norvell. So let me just describe it to you before Fuente got there. 09, 2-10. 2010, 1-11. 2011, 2-10. Fuente, year 1, 4-8. Year 2, 3-9. And it had been like that. I don't have it pre-09 in front of me, and I'm not going to bother you by looking all that up, which I should have earlier, but what have you. Fuente goes 10-3, then he goes 9-4, then he takes the Vatek job. Norvell comes in 8-5, 10-3, 8-6, but let's remember last year's 8-6. They lost by 1 at Navy. They lost by 1 at home to UCF, 31-30. I think they led that game 30-14 at halftime, if memory serves. I remember I was in Biloxi at the sportsbook for that game. Well, those are the two. Oh, and then they lost the Birmingham Bowl to Wake Forest 37-34. So that's 3 of those 6 L's were by 5 combined points. And then they answer this year and go 12-1. And by the way, and I'm coming to you Wednesday around lunchtime. Norvell, I had read that he said, as he was saying goodbye to his team at Memphis, that he'd love to coach the Bowl if they would have him. I don't know if it was FSU telling him, no, you get to work on your staff and recruiting, or if it was Memphis saying, no, I'm not sure. But the news broke yesterday, Norvell will not be coaching Memphis in its bowl game. And unless I've missed something in the last hour, Memphis coaching search still goes on. I have read Barry Odom, the former Missouri coach who just got canned, was linked as a potential candidate. But let's talk more about Norvell. Okay, he's retained Odell Haggins. He's hired an OC, Dillingham, who was with him at Memphis, but went and replaced Chip Lindsey as OC at Auburn for Gus Malzahn. We haven't done a video. We didn't do one last week. Hat tip to Gus. Out coaching Sabes. Out scheming him. Outwitting him. Beating him. Hat tip to Gus. But they still don't like him up at Auburn. They still don't like him. Okay, but Dillingham did not call play. Gus called his own plays. Norvell called his own plays. And I would assume Norvell will continue to call his own plays. Really good hire. I'm not going to say it's a great, considering the circumstances. Look, Thrasher, the president, is retiring soon. Cobes, the AD, is an imbecile who's a 4-decade politician who doesn't know anything about sports. They spent money on a search firm. They I don't know if they talked to James Franklin. There was some, and you never know with some of this jump the gun reporting on these coaching searches. There was just some chatter out there that maybe they had a conversation with him. If they did, they took Heisman treatment. Obviously, dumbass Cobes was talking about Stoops as a candidate during the search. Nobody talks during the search, you dummy. I said that in the last video about FSU, but considering all those circumstances, whether they inquired with Mark Stoops or not is kind of a gray area. I don't know, but I think they definitely, or I don't know if I'm going to say definitely. I have seen stuff that they at least had a conversation or two with Brian Kelly. I think I'd take Norvell over Brian Kelly. Probably not over James Franklin. James Franklin is a classy guy, runs a good program, recruits like hell, but he's a moron when it comes to fourth down play calls in big games. That one against Ohio State in 2018, it was just, what? Take it out of Trace McSorley's hands? What? Why? Run the ball on 4th and 6. He had another one this year that was just complete incompetence. I want to say it was in the last month, but I'm shooting a blank on it right now. Anyway, back to the coaching carousel. So, good job, Simmies. Way to go. I think you got a good coach, 38 years old, on the rise, proven winner. I think FSU did good for itself. Oh, the reported from the Democrat, 6-year deal, $3.7 million annually for Norvell. Okay. Next, let's go. The biggest stunner for me was Chris Petersen stepping down at Washington. Shocking to me. He just turned 55 in October. Now, in his statement that's, was blah, 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 and the last two words were "and recharge." So that tells me a little burned out, been going hard for a long time. 2 undefeated teams at Boise. I believe his record there was 92-12. That just dynastic 4-year era with Kellen Moore, where if Colin Kaepernick had not guided Nevada back from a deficit, a big deficit, to tie the game, and then Boise had, Boise had a really short field goal to win that game. They missed. Nevada got a field goal first possession of OT. Boise's chance to answer with a field goal. The Munson kicker missed it again. If not for that, I'm forgetting that exact year, they would have played Alabama in the BCS championship game, and deservedly so. They had smashed everybody all year, and that year they had played 2 good non-conference games. I'm pretty sure it was the year they went to the Georgia Dome and just destroyed Mark Richt, Aaron Murray, and Georgia. They boat raced them. It literally was 35-7, early, mid-third. Georgia got some late touchdowns. Final was 35-21. Made it look decent. It was either that year or the year that they went up to D.C. where the Redskins play, and Moore had that last-second touchdown pass to beat a very good Virginia Tech team. It was one of those 2 years where they had opened. I mean, they would go to the East Coast and play a top 20 team every year under Petersen. Obviously, he had that just iconic, the hook and lateral on 4th and 18 against Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl, Adrian Peterson, that forced overtime. Then they go 4th and 2 in overtime after Petersen's first run for a 25-yard touchdown. They go on 4th and 2, they take it out of Jared Zabransky's hands and they run a halfback pass and it works. And then they go Statue of Liberty. And then he went 14-0 a couple years later. I mean, Petersen was just incredible. I usually do preseason coaching rankings for Vegas Insider through the years. I didn't do one this past summer. But anyhow, I always had him in my top 5. I mean, I think he's an all-time great, even if it's over right now. Didn't go quite as good at Washington as I thought. Got him to the playoff one year. Definitely a down year this year. The first 2 years were a little disappointing, but I mean, it was transitioning. He had about 3 big years, and then this year was a disappointment. So he's a hot commodity come next coaching carousel. I think he'll be back. Okay. And so they hire Ash, the defensive coordinator, and I don't know if Petersen had given the AD some heads up on this, maybe weeks or even months in advance. He was thinking about it. The guy, no, what did I say? Ash? I'm sorry, that's the Rutgers coach. Jimmy Lake, DC. Let me check that. Jimmy Lake, the Washington DC. That's who they hired. What the hell do I have to? Ash, he got fired by Rutgers. What the hell I was talking about? Sorry, I'm looking at my mag. Yeah, Jimmy Lake, the DC. I don't understand that. I mean, you're Washington. Conduct a national search. This guy's never been a head coach. Hell, forgive me. Let's see. Let me just look this guy up. I'm pretty sure he's never been a head coach. All right, he's 42. Okay, he played at Eastern Washington, coached a little there, then was at Washington, then was with the Bucks, Lions. Then he joined Petersen at Boise State, then at Washington, co-DC in 16 and 17, the DC the last 2 years. I don't get it, man. You're Washington. Maybe he'll do great. I mean, I'm not trying to, I don't know the guy. I mean, I'm not trying to be critical. They've had good defenses. But you're Washington. I mean, it just reminds me of just dumbass Jeremy Foley hires. I mean, you just get a coach with no experience. I don't get that. Jeremy Foley hired Ron Zook, Swamp Donk, Jim McElweener, and y'all know I like my boy Muschamp. But between the three of those, 3 combined years of head coaching experience, all by Mac at Colorado State in the Mountain West. They were 3 colossal failure hires. With the Gators, like Spurrier said in his farewell presser, January of 2002, we call this thing Gator football. We call it this big, great battleship we call Gator football. I don't know if we call it a battleship out there in Washington, but it's a big old boat, maybe even a yacht, and you don't hire somebody with no experience, unless his name's Joe Brady, and he just won the Broyles Award for Best Assistant in America. Now, then I'll give you a pass on that, but I don't know what Washington's doing. Surprised by Petersen. We will see his name again. He'll be a hot commodity next year in the coaching carousel. Okay, next. Ole Miss, the Lane Train. Unless he gets them put on major probation soon, and I forget there's some sort of double the punishment type of rule, not the death penalty, or this used to be. I remember this from a decade or so ago. If you get major violations like Ole Miss had, whatever that was, 2-3 years ago, if you get major violations again within a 5 or 10 year span, there's some super duper triple quadruple punishment you face. So as long as that does not happen, which is a possibility with Lane Chafin, I've actually come around on Lane. I used to not like the guy. He was trying to poke the monster, which was the Gators, about a decade ago before Sabes got that thing rolling. And I didn't like it. But he's matured, but not too much. He's still got plenty of his moxie and smart-assness, and I don't say that necessarily in a negative way. It's going to be fun. And I give Ole Miss an A+ because This is a splash hire. This is a move the needle, if you will. I think Lane will do well. I think it'll be fun as hell for us non-Ole Miss fans or sports media members or whatever. Whichever way it goes, it's going to be fun. Even in the middle, it'll be fun. Whether it goes real good, real bad, or right in the middle, I think we're all going to enjoy ourselves. So, Keith Carter, thumbs up. And look, man, Matt Luke is a super nice guy, super loyal to the Rebels. Showed that in what he knew was a hot seat type of year. He went out and got 2 head coaches that could have easily been looked at as his interim if they fired him mid-year, or potential replacements in Mike McIntyre at Colorado, who was the coach of the year in the Pac-12 just like 2 or 3 years ago, and R-Rod. Interesting that R-Rod was just not even, well, I guess they just had their eyes on Lane. And I will tell you, this time last week, I really thought Kiffin was going to Arkansas. I really did. And that lead into the Razorbacks. I feel like I should spend more time on Ole Miss, but look, I like the hire of Kiffin. Not much more to say. It's gonna be fun. I know he brought, I think it was 2 or 3 FAU staff members, including his strength and conditioning coach, who he had brought from Alabama, who was the assistant strength and conditioning coach, to the redhead who always says, "Get your mind right." Don't know his name. I just call him "Get your mind right." And the reported numbers on Kiffin, 4 years, 16.2. What's that? 4.05 million, 4,500,000 large per year. Not bad. Not bad. So Ole Miss did well cash wise. I still think Arkansas would have paid him more. Arkansas, Tyson Food Inc., Jerry Jones, Sam Walton, Walmart Dynasty, more money than you can shake a stick at. I'm going to get to Rutgers and Schiano, but let's go Arkansas next. Okay, I've done some radio in Arkansas with some various stations through the years. Talked to a couple of guys last week. It was obvious early last week that FSU was doing Norvell. The only potential maybe sleeper shocker would have been if they had been working on Jeff Scott or Brent Venables, because we knew it had to be somebody that was playing last week. So that was the worst kept secret. Everybody knew by Monday at lunch that Norvell was going to FSU, and Arkansas had given up on Norvell, convinced of that, and they had their eyes on Kiffin. But before that, I want to say it was like the Thursday or Friday prior to that, I was talking to a friend in Arkansas that's really plugged in, and that friend told me that in no uncertain terms, and I don't know if it was Leach himself or his agent or whatever, Leach wanted the Arkansas job. Okay. So regardless of who Arkansas hires, regardless, and we talked about this and we did an Arkansas video like a month ago. Mike Leach is 58. That's my only concern with Leach. Now, I know a lot of people are like, oh, he's not politically correct. Some people think he's kind of a weirdo, goes off on these tangents to the pressers. Dude, that shit to me is hilarious. That stuff is awesome. That stuff is content gold. That is pure entertainment. Okay? So Arkansas goes and gets Sam Pittman. All right. I've never called myself Mr. SEC. Some people have called me that on the radio. But SEC's my wheelhouse. And I'm not going to lie. And it's funny because Feinbaum was scolding some caller for saying he'd never heard of Sam Pittman. Well, neither had I, brother, whoever you were. I had not heard of him either. I guarantee you I can name every OC and DC in the SEC. I mean, maybe not right this second because they've got coaching changes. Yeah, I can. Mike Bobo, by the way, former CSU coach Mike Bobo, former teammate of Will Muschamp's at Georgia, former longtime OC for Rick at Georgia, former quarterback, as I said, with Muschamp and Kirby on those teams that just got annihilated by the Gators year in and year out. 11-1 from Spurrier, 7-0 against Ray Goff. If Goff was there 7 years, I think 6 years. I don't know. But where the hell was I? Oh, Pittman. So, yeah. I can't name every O-line coach in the SEC. Now, obviously, I've read about him since. He was a recruiting coordinator at Arkansas under Belima for 3 seasons, I believe it was. Oh, wait, I've got his... don't I have it pulled up? Anyhow, yeah, I'd never heard of Pittman. Never heard of him. And I'm not trying to call myself, Mr., college football knowledge. Actually, yeah, kind of. But if I ain't heard of him, come on, man. If I haven't heard of him, 95% of unless he's been on your staff, unless you're an Arkansas or Georgia fan, of course you've heard of him. I mean, of course. But unless you're a Georgia or Arkansas fan, and here I got his whole resume. I mean, he's been around Northern Illinois, Cincinnati. He's never even been a coordinator. Western Michigan, Mizzou, Kansas, Northern Illinois again, North Carolina, Tennessee, Arkansas, Georgia. So, I mean, he's experienced in the SEC. His head coaching record, he was a head coach in junior college. I'm trying to look on this resume. Which one would have been the junior college? I don't even know. But he went 11-9-1 in one. I don't know. That would be 2 seasons in junior college. Okay. So I'm watching the presser. And by the way, I did not see Norvell's presser, but I heard it was outstanding. And forgive my movement. I don't have I don't have the leg room that I do on the other side of my desk. So I kind of got to go sideways on you here. So Pittman, he's also 58, like Leach. Okay, so don't tell me Leach's age was a detriment here. You hired a guy 58 years old, just like Leach. But Leach, I mean, I wrote down some numbers on Leach. Okay, this is who Arkansas could have hired. Probably Missouri, too. I don't know that. But Leach wouldn't turn down an SEC job. He wouldn't turn down Vandy. I don't think. All right, Mike Leach took Texas Tech to 10 consecutive bowl games in 10 years. 10! His last 8 years, his worst season was 8-5. Okay. All right, Washington. All right, first off, Lubbock, Texas. The winds of West Texas, out in the middle of flipping nowhere. Okay, Power 5 outpost. What's the next biggest Power 5 outpost? Probably Pullman, Washington. Okay. Since his first 3 years, which obviously they had some success with Mike Price, but he had been gone. They might have gone through a couple of different coaches before they got to Leach after post Mike Price. It's rolling, baby, at his spring football and whatever 3-month stint at Alabama. I think he got paid a lot of money by Sports Illustrated because those strippers were so full of it with all those quotes. But we digress from the Mike Price days. He's not even at UTEP anymore. Okay, so after 3 years at Washington State, they weren't that great, under 500. Or no, I think maybe one of them was a bowl game, but 6-7, I think. But since then, at Washington State since 2015, 43-21. Okay, you know what that is? That's a 2-decade proven winner. Hilarious. His call-in show will be just great, better than any call-in show Arkansas would have ever had, ever. Damn sure, including Houston Nutt and Nolan Richardson. I love me some Nolan Richardson. They turned that down for this guy. I mean, I don't know that they could have gone and gotten Joe Brady. I know that, like I just mentioned, Tyson, Jerry Jones, Walton, Walmart Dynasty, they had the money. They could have gone to Joe Brady. They could have had Mike Leach. Hell, they could have had Butch Davis. They could have had Butch Davis the last three. Now, I think Butch is getting a little up in age. And in fact, I don't even know, but I can find out real quick. I think Butch is late 60s. And I know Miami sucked this year, but he did just beat Miami with FIU. He is 68. Butch is from Arkansas. He's been on this job 3 different searches the last decade. You tell me. You want a guy named Sam Pittman or do you want Butch Davis? I mean, I don't want either really, but well, look, I'm not trying to dog on Pittman. I'm sure he's a great guy. I wish him success. I just don't understand this hire though. And I watched the press conference and, he's no line coach. He doesn't do a lot of press conferences. I'm sure he does quite, media scrums with, 8 reporters that are mostly dorky and 22 to 25 years old probably. Excuse me. Sip of water needed. But I'm watching the presser. He didn't seem nervous. Didn't seem like he was dealing with anxiety. Didn't seem as if he just seemed like he was having a conversation with like 3 guys in the room at lunch or something. I mean, it had to be hush-hush in the room just so you could hear him talk. He wasn't talking very loud. I would just expect more emotion and enthusiasm. And look, if he was a little nervous and having some anxiety or whatever, I'm sure the room was packed. I mean, we've seen an Arkansas hire. They break away from SportsCenter and Bobby Petrino's calling the Hogs one night after he was coaching Monday Night Football for the Falcons and lying his ass off to Arthur Blank the day before, humiliating Blank because Blank had to go up in the Monday night booth with Al Michaels and company and act like, he confronted Petrino. I don't need to get off on a rant about that. But anyway, it's a packed room. They're going to call the Hogs. And I would just expect more enthusiasm out of him. But it wasn't like he was, nervous. He just wasn't being very enthusiastic. I didn't get it. But look, you win ball games, not press conferences. Like I said, I haven't seen the Norvell press conference. I hear he won the press conference and then some. I've had a couple of Noel buddies say it was an A+. But you know what? You can have an A+ in that press conference. All that matters is winning ball games on Saturdays. And so that goes for Mr. Pittman as well. I don't mean any disrespect to him. I just think Arkansas could have found a lot better to rally the fan base. Look, you can win with a really, really good coach at any SEC program unless James Franklin's at Vandy. Vandy is just too hard. It's too hard. I'm glad they retained Mason though. Lastly, well, not lastly, before I get to Schiano, which was a great hire, BC still does not have a coach. All right, South Florida went with Jeff Scott, the son of old school Bowden FSU OC, Brad Scott back in the 80s. I believe when Bowden got rid of Brad Scott, it was to get Jeff Bowden, and I think Brad Scott spent some years at Clemson. I think just as quarterbacks coach. I don't think as a OC. But anyway, Jeff Scott goes to UCF. Okay, so Charlie Strong's out there. So there's a great defensive coordinator for anyone to hire for. I feel like Charlie's been at every SEC school. I mean, Obviously, he's been in head coaching now for a decade, Louisville, Texas, and USF. I mean, he could probably get a group of 5 head coaching job, and I think Charlie just needs to go back to being a DC, at least for now. And look, if anybody comes to scoop up Grantham, like the Bengals tried to do, and we lose him, come on back, Charlie. Has Charlie been in... Was Charlie? No, Stoops was our DC. He might have been on that staff, though, in 96. Charlie's been all over the SEC. So if I'm Lane Kiffin, I try to stick with McIntyre. He did a great job with that Ole Miss defense this year. But whoever needs a DC, Charlie Strong's out there. Okay, so, and I'll talk about this more with the bowl game video, but, Jeff Scott is a Clemson OC, but now he's at USF. I haven't read much on that. I would assume he's still going to, call plays for Clemson in the playoffs. I hope so, because I like Clemson a lot against Ohio State. Next video, I'll have more intel on that. But that is a storyline to watch. And that has had mixed bag of results in the past. And by the way, LSU dodged a bullet on that front because Dave Aranda reports yesterday from ESPN's, Adam Rittenberger, was that UNLV was closing in on, on hiring Dave Aranda, LSU's outstanding defensive coordinator, who gets paid a ton of money. He would have had to take a pay cut unless the Fertittas, the former UFC owners who were billionaires, but they just paid like $50 million, or that might be 30 or 40 million, but they paid a lot for UNLV to get a new football, like weight room training center type deal. So I doubt the Fertittas were going to dish out more millions, but so LSU dodges the bullet because hours after those reports, Tiger droppings, I know, and then even eventually Rittenberger said the same sources that were telling him early in the day UNLV was closing in on a deal or saying, ain't gonna happen. So LSU dodges a bullet there. Clemson is still affected with Jeff Scott. I don't think Venables is ever going to go anywhere. I think he's a Bud Foster, a DC for life. They pay him plenty of money. Cool. I get it. Okay, and Schiano. And my gosh, we're 32 minutes already. I'm just not very good at wrapping these things up quick. I get off on rants, and I'm going to get off on another one right here. But because we're already 32 minutes deep, let's talk about Rutgers and Schiano. Okay. I always said, I've been saying this for more than a decade, there should be a statue of Schiano outside of the Rutgers Stadium. When Tennessee, their fan base, pulled that unprecedented coup of basically vetoing an AD's hire, and by the way, I admire them for that. A little disappointed I wasn't the catalyst in doing something similar for Ron Zook and the Swamp Donkey McElwain at my alma mater, University of Florida. But well done by the Tennessee fan base. But it had nothing to do, with his one-loss record, which Tennessee fans were pointing out. Like, I think it was one game of under 500 overall. Well, if they, I don't want to call Tennessee fans morons, but, and I don't have Schiano's, I could look it up, but I don't feel like it. Look, the first few years he was at Rutgers, they were like 1-10. I don't think they were playing 12 games yet, like 1-10, maybe even an 0-11. Or a 2-9 or 2-10. But when he got that thing going, like year 4, year 5, they had Ray Rice at running back. They were leading Arizona State in their first bowl game. I think it was their first bowl game since '78, the Garden State Bowl. My man Jim Myers, check me on that. I'm pretty sure it was the '78 Garden State Bowl. He was a Rutgers fan I worked with side by side. And they were leading Arizona State the whole game. Ended up losing but covering. And then they were bowl game. I think he won a bowl game every year after that, except for one hiccup. I think it had 4-8 hiccup. They had that Thursday night game on ESPN when they beat Louisville. Louisville's undefeated. They were undefeated, and they beat them on a last-second field goal. I think that was when Petrino was still there, round 1. And they were in like the top 10, top 5. So Schiano has proven he can do it at Rutgers when nobody had done it in decades upon decades. He's a Jersey guy. Now, is the degree of difficulty much higher in the Big Ten? Yes, but if anybody can do it, it's Greg Schiano. 8 years, $32 million. They're going to, I think he made them promise they're going to try to get some new football-only facility, etc. That's going to be interesting to watch because Schiano is a very good coach. But back to the Tennessee thing, it wasn't about his win-loss record. It was not about, I don't like bringing this up, but whatever the one little accusation was with Sandusky, it didn't have anything to do with that too. Those were just excuses Tennessee fans were using that were lame excuses, and really, I don't believe them, any of them, to be factual. I mean, he was one game under 500 overall, but completely irrelevant. He was a great, not good, great coach at Rutgers. And then the last thing I was going to point out, the reason why they vetoed, the Tennessee fan base vetoed the whole program was because it was a cultural non-fit. When you are going to hire John Curry, the former AD, dumbass, when you're going to hire a head coach to be the face of the franchise, if you will, of the Tennessee Volunteers football program up in Rocky Top, the Smoky Mountains, you do not go grab someone from New Jersey with a New Jersey accent. It's a bad cultural fit. Now, did it work for Rick Pitino at Kentucky? Yeah. Different sport. Basketball is a different deal. All right. Maybe Butch Jones will be the Colorado State coach. I wish he would have gotten the Rutgers job. Now, that would have been pure fun. I think that covers it all. We got more videos coming today. UFC 245 video, some bowl game chats, etc. I think I covered it. Thumbs down, Arkansas. Thumbs up to the semis, reluctantly. I hate the semis, but no, they got a good guy. Thumbs down, Washington. What the hell are you doing? Thumbs down, Arkansas. Thumbs up, Rutgers. Drinkwitz, Mizzou. 12-1, small sample size. Maybe Scott Satterfield should get most of that credit. That was the program he built. 12-1, still pretty good. If I'm Mizzou, I would have gone after Leach. Whether they did or not, no clue. No clue. I like Drinkwitz, but 1 year in the Sun Belt, even though he did it outstanding, we'll see. I mean, I'm not going to go thumbs up or thumbs down. I'll give Mizzou a B- unless Leach wanted the job, and then it goes to a C-. But Drinkwitz is much younger. We shall see. I'm Brian Edwards, MajorWager.com. Sorry that got long-winded. Hope you hung in there with me for a while. Over and out.